Welcome to episode 206 of The Numbers Game. I'm Jace and I'm here with Nick as we have a special guest episode today. How are you, Nico?
Mate, feeling good. Feeling a little bit vulnerable, to be honest. No,
Yeah.
our fearless leader, Marty Vidakovic, not here. So, I don't know. Hopefully we don't stuff this up. Bit pressure.
Yeah, always a bit of pressure to do Marty proud. He is our, social media superstar. I think one of his reels is at about 400,000 views at the moment. So the guy's, his head's getting quite large. So I've had to, give him an episode off and give you and I a chance to be the star, Nick.
Yeah, look, mate, it's becoming an issue in the office. He can't get through most of the doors because of his head. I've had a few staff pull me aside and, just have a word about, I guess the presence Marty's holding around the office. There's a bit of a strut that's developed in the last couple of weeks post those little social media blow-ups. So, look, hopefully a week on the bench, he reflects a little bit and comes back a bit more humble.
100%. Well, I'm excited for today's guest episode. It's always nice when we get guests on. This one's close to myself. And then, Nick, you've had the opportunity to meet the great man who we're bringing on. I'll jump straight to it. Adam Diamond from Juno Advisory. He works closely with the Future Advisory team, has done so for a while. The tagline of his business, I jumped on the website, did my prep about 3 minutes ago. It says, change your business, change your life. So excited to unpack all things Adam Diamond. Welcome to the show, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Great to be invited on, have a bit of a chat. So appreciate it.
No, very, very happy to have you on, mate. And look, I think with a tagline like that, we've gone real hard and real high level. Change your business, change your life. But, mate, for those listening at home who don't know who Adam Diamond is, maybe take it back a bit of a background and a quick introduction to yourself, mate. Who is Adam?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, guys. Adam Diamond. It's probably a long story and too long for something like this. But yeah, background in human resources. Had a couple of businesses, and probably the moment that changed my business life was working for quite a large family office and having a look at the small to medium business space, struggling to grow and really struggling to reach fundamentally what they wanted to succeed or what they wanted to get out of that small to medium business. And from a couple of bits and pieces after that, I started Juno Advisory about 3 years ago, and also started a family about 3 years ago, and also took on a big mortgage about 3 years ago. So just put it all into the big mixing pot and sort of, made it happen. So yeah, been running Juno Advisory, been running the family, and been running my mortgage for the past 3 years. And it's been, I've, like every business owner, had internal struggles, but I suppose for us, it's really about, we want to run our business the best that we can, and we we've got much better at it since the days of just me. And now we're a small team, helping other business owners in the small to medium business space grow their businesses, grow their businesses successfully. And I suppose that success is something that is different for every person, and clarity around that, I think it goes a long way for what people are trying to achieve, because it's not just about money. It's not just about work-life balance. It's not just about flexibility. It's probably a combination of those types of things. So yeah, that's a little bit of a brief background intro on me.
Yeah, I just like everything you bring to the table, because I think half the reason actually not...
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. When I say the reason we start, I was going to say the reason we started this podcast, but I think it's probably not the reason why we started, but what it morphed into was almost a venting session for myself, Jason, Marty, around business. And I guess when we realised that, then we got to think that, okay, we've gone from a small business to an SME. All these struggles that we've had, the journey we've been on, we should be sharing that with small business owners, because it's very hard to get that education anywhere else. And I think business coach has a stigma to it, where the common thing you hear about business is, someone's telling you what you should be doing, but they've possibly never done it themselves. And what are you actually getting in return? And I think what you guys do, which is what I really like, is you actually get in and get dirty. And it's not just about, hey, these are the things you should be doing. what you guys do is you show people how to do it, and you get involved with the implementation piece, which is the hardest piece. And then I really love what Jace just talked about: change your business, change your life. Because why are we in business? Well, we're in business to create a certain life for
Yeah.
ourselves. And generally, we get into business and we create the life that we didn't want. It's exactly opposite to what we're trying to achieve, which is choices, freedom, whatever else goes along those lines. And we get into business and we're like, well, this is what I thought it was, because it's not easy. So I like what you guys bring to the table. It's not just about, hey, you need to be here and this is what you need to do, but this is how you do it, and we're going to help you do it to create the business that you want and that's going to serve your purpose or what you want to achieve.
Yeah, I think I think business coach. It's a complicated it's a complicated word. I think that there's we're trying to provide. I think back to your point, we're trying to provide really two things. We're trying to provide sound advice for the small to medium business sort of structure. And then we're helping them implement that advice. And I think it's too easy for business advisors or whoever to sit there and go, this is what you should do, this is how you should do it type scenario, because they're not really standing behind that advice and prepared to go into the business, prepared to work with the business to implement that advice and be supportive across that journey, because you're putting yourself in harm's way by doing that. And, for me, I've done that before, but really finding staff that had the competency to do that, but also the ability to manage the expectation relationships within the business in order to shift from A to F, we say. It was a bit of a struggle at the start, but you guys would know this, right? As great businesses yourselves, as you start to get the momentum, you attract the type of person that you're looking for, and that's a really important thing for us. So yeah, the implementation is definitely the hardest part, as you both would know. But we talk a little bit about collective intelligence and sort of how we run our business, which is on a Monday, we actually internally have a day. So obviously today, we just finished up an internal meeting where we go through all our clients. We go through where they're at on their journey. We go through their struggles. We go through the things that we're implementing for them, how that's going. And we collectively provide feedback as experts to each other to then go back and deliver back into the business. And we've sort of found that that's the ability for us to take all our knowledge and expertise, to share it amongst the people that we work with, and then to deliver all that knowledge and expertise back into the business with one direct client manager, we call them, which means that you're getting a single point of communication with your senior business advisor, but you're getting all this expertise that sits behind them. And that's been a real changing point for us delivering value to the business and allowing the businesses that we work with to be able to create that change management to get what they're looking for.
On that note, and it's actually just got things to kind of come back to mind. When we started working together, Adam, you didn't have a brand, you didn't have a website.
Correct.
You were a relationships guy, and you still are to this day. Like, obviously, relationships and getting to know someone is obviously at the heart of what you do and how you go about it. I'd love then, to get your take on 3 years ago, Juno, versus your business today. What were some of the biggest things that moved the needle for yourself? I mean, you turning a lens back in on your own business for the changes you've implemented, and when you think back to business day one to how it is now, what kind of things are you really proud of that you've been able to do over that 3-year journey to date?
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good question. But just as everyone knows, Jason was actually one of my first clients 3 years ago. So, there was a little bit of a leap of faith, I would say, back in the day. To answer your question, though, I think the business 3 years ago was obviously just me. We've got 4 staff members now, and it was definitely around going in and creating a relationship and trust for the business to allow them to change, and that still plays a huge part of us. I mean, obviously, I've had the expertise and experience to be able to deliver some of that advice. But what I realized was, and probably part of the change from then to what now is surrounding myself with exceptional staff members and people and a lot of people don't really know from the outside, is that we don't have juniors in our business. We only employ senior people who have been there and done that. And we all sort of run our own admin. We all run our own bits and pieces. And so what that allows us to do is there's a number one, a huge responsibility for a senior advisor. And number two is that you're not getting somebody signing off on your work as such, like a legal firm, for example. The partner talks to you and sends you the bill, which is fantastic. But really the majority of the work, because that's the structure and the way that those businesses are set up, which works for them. We're trying to do a little bit of a different model, which is where you get a senior person as everything. They do everything with you. So I think, that has grown since who we were or who I was 3 years ago to who we are now. So we're a group of people, and we've started to bring in, and Jace could probably talk more about this, about my strengths and particularly my weaknesses, whereas we've become more of a rounded out type of solution. So Jason's obviously met Sharon, which is one of the directors and a business partner of mine. She's an accountant by trade. She would never do any accounting work, but she really brings another lens to assisting businesses in their growth, particularly from her expertise of taking a business from 10 to sort of 100 mil type scenarios. So I think staff and surrounding myself. I think that there's also, I think businesses, they rest on their laurels a little bit after they've had a bit of success, much the same as what I did, which is had a bit of success and then sort of focused a little bit less on driving leads and driving new business and relationships in. And what happens is, as you two would know, is that you get this dip. So you do some business development and then you deliver on it, and then it goes down, then you do some more business development and deliver on it, and then it goes down, and you get into this cycle of lots of stress and then not as much stress, then lots of stress, and being very specific about and focused on where you drive opportunity from has been a really big lesson that we've learned. So we're, as you both would know, sort of stepping up and creating, let's call them referral relationships with much larger businesses that have a lot more clients than us, and also focus on our client referrals. So for us, the way in which we go about finding opportunities has been pretty crucial. And then the third part is, the progression of staff. We're very specific about reporting. We're very specific about, expectation of role, being very clear and very concise with, talking to our staff around, well, this is what we expect from you, but here we are. This is how we're going to help you get there. So position descriptions, KPI. I mean, I know I can feel your eyes rolling in the back of your head. Position descriptions, KPI frameworks, bonus structures, all those kind of things. It's all well and good to have a position description on a piece of paper, but whether somebody actually engages with that is probably another big area that a lot of small to medium businesses struggle with.
Yeah, it's a real, everything you were saying then hits home, but particularly around the BD or business development, implement, BD, implement. And look, we even have those discussions with our salespeople on an employee level. So how do the absolute top performers get those consistent numbers, and don't go, up and down, up and down? From all that and what you've talked about your own business, and I can relate that to my business, but when you go in to a new client, looking at your past clients and your experience, what would you say is probably the quickest win, or what's the thing where you go in there and you see most small businesses either, number one, doing it incorrectly, or number two, not giving enough attention to? Like, is there something where you go in and you go, yep, that's the thing that's going to shift the needle the most? Like, what's really common? I know there's probably a lot, but is this?
It's another great question. We get asked this a lot, but my answer is always so boring, right? It's not this silver bullet excitingness that it's just, hey, this is what you should do. I think probably it depends. I'm going to answer that in two things. It probably depends on the size of the business. So if you look at a business, we look at businesses from sort of 0 to 3 mil turnover, 3 to 7, 7 to 15, 15 to 25, and 25 plus. So they're kind of like the categories that businesses are slightly different in those categories, or they're trying to achieve slightly different things. But let's talk about a business from 3 to 7, because that's generally probably where we play most of our clients sit. I would say in 99.9% of the businesses that we deal with, the one thing to get right at the start is people understanding what success looks like in their role. And that forms two things. One is, what exactly am I supposed to be doing in my role, and what does success look like? And that would sort of be a position description and a KPI framework that they understand. I think it's really brushed over, and we talk about, utilization in a professional services business, so hours on. I know that I need to hit 80% utilization. Okay, but what are the other things that sit around that? How do I hit that? What does that actually mean? So I think that when we talk in businesses, we go in and we do, so if a client comes on, we do a half day unpack, and we always do this big, get all the skeletons out of the closet, blah, blah, blah. And inevitably that doesn't happen. So we find the skeletons as we progress down. But doing the unpack and where we see is that you should know how to do that. You're an account manager. You should know how to manage accounts. Well, there's a couple more questions. Do we have a framework? Do we have accounts that are more important to us? That gold, silver, bronze, or ABC. Well, what does managing a gold account versus a bronze account mean? Well, okay. Well, how do we then grow from that? So I think that there's a real specification of that. But I think another one is reporting. I mean, we go into so many businesses where it's they've been successful, but the risk, because they're growing, is becoming too great for them to not have a really structured reporting. And that's both from a financial perspective, so Jace can vouch for that, but also from an operational perspective. Operational reporting is generally glazed over because it's a little harder to do, it's a little harder to find, it's a little harder to track. So doing those kind of things are quite important, and something that we feel is always missed. Then below that is constant consistency.
Could you give us a real easy example of operational reporting? So you did say it's hard to track and can be missed, but give us a real clear example of what that would mean in a maybe service-based business.
Yeah, so we talk about cadence, right? Which is what types of meetings we have and those types of things. So we would consider operational reporting a meeting. So if you think of it like this, a senior leadership team meeting, which would be the heads of each of your units or the people that would be your most senior people getting together and delivering the day-to-day or week-to-week operations of the business. So when our internal KPI framework or framework would be, our expectation is that you attend 100% of the senior leadership team meetings. You come prepared with the pre-work done, and you take away with the post-work done. So if you look at a great meeting, it should be, what did we say we were going to achieve last meeting, and what are we going to achieve next meeting? And it creates this sort of 360 loop that means you're always achieving. The reporting on that would be the information that you bring to the meeting with you and actually having the meeting. I mean, there are so many businesses out there that if they actually talked once a week for an hour with their senior leadership team meeting, and they committed to delivering on what they said they were going to do last week, and they put an action list of what they're going to do by the next meeting, which would be next week, they would be in a far, far better position than they currently were. And that's because something else more important becomes, and they book it over. You go, well, and this is what I meant by this reporting, right? This operational reporting. It is the most important thing is to have that meeting to communicate with your colleagues so that you understand what is going on by week. I mean, you guys would be doing whips, you'd be doing sales meetings, you'd be doing X, you'd be doing Y, you'd be doing Z. It's not to say that we need to have all these meetings, but you've got to create time for the business and the communication within the business to deliver that.
So you talk about creating time for business. That's a perfect segue into going into what I was just thinking. I work with business owners too. Great thing that we get to do at Future Advisory, and same for Nick. There are a lot of business clients that come Nick's way when it comes to needing their finance sorted or even their own personal super funds and insurances, all the rest. So we know the mindset of a business owner, and we are one ourselves. Creating time. How often is a business owner not working on the business one of the challenges that you face? Is that a big one, or am I kind of barking up the wrong tree there?
Every business, every conversation, it's the same. Every business owner, and to a lesser extent, senior management, right? Because they still get it's all about time, and everyone's always too busy. I mean, the biggest referral that we get is, we always say when we talk about things, it's like, why would people come and talk to us? Are you working too many hours and not feeling like that you're getting the success that you're getting from working all those hours. I mean, people just refer, you should talk to Juno Advisory. And the reason is because it's not necessarily about creating time. It's more about prioritization of time. What's the most important thing that you need to be doing on your business? Now, I would say working on your business holds the greater priority than working in your business in most moments of time. So I'll give you an example. 5 people are sick in the business. You're like, no, I'm not going to do any work because I'm working on the business. Doesn't make sense, right? So there's obviously a reprioritization. You step back into the business and you deliver value for the business. But in the general sense, on the day-to-day running, you should be carving out weekly time to work on the business. And that's kind of where we sort of come in, which is where we sort of force you, because we see you weekly, to work on the business in the time period that we sort of allocate with you. But it's challenging. And what people don't realize is you only have a certain amount of time. So what people do is they book out their diaries, right? And then things happen. So then they squish things into their diaries, which pushes other things out. And I think, Nick, we sort of talked about this when we caught up, which is you're better off to be doing a couple of things really well than many things really poorly. And that kind of comes back to the prioritization of time. So I think that there's lots of different ways you can do it. I mean, we look at smaller versions around time blocking or focusing on doing AM and PM type of things, which is what we do. But, inevitably it's about you have to deprioritize things to prioritize other things. And that's the hard part. What a lot of business owners and senior management sort of struggle with is, what can I get rid of in order to allow me time? And that really, I would say, would be dependent on what your goal is for the business. And one of the ways in order to do that is to get really great staff underneath you to take some of those things that you are deprioritizing that they can then prioritize, which is where we always come back to. We always sort of start off on an organizational sort of structural sort of point of view, because, and part of the catchphrase is choose to work. And we put that in there very specifically because you should, as a business owner, have a choice whether you work in the business or not. But the only way that you can do that, or the only way that you can exit a business owner out of that business operationally, is you create a structure underneath that business owner that facilitates the day-to-day operations of the business, which would be, from our perspective, a senior leadership team, a management team, some senior employees, some people that can take the work away from you or take the work that you deprioritize and make it their priority.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And I think it's where, again, I keep saying I can relate to this, but I can, because it's where we are now. But we're at that stage now where we now need to level up. We've got all of that structure there now, and now we need to go to that next level. To get an ROI on all of that structure. So that's obviously the utopia. But I think back to myself and also our industry and the conversations I have, and it's so difficult to make a decision to bring that kind of structure in, because the minute you do that, and people only think about this, they think about the cost. Well, if I bring someone in underneath me, it's going to cost money. I'm pretty profitable at the moment, but I'm not that profitable. I'm not sure if I can invest in more people. How do you overcome that? Because we all know that it's the right answer. The right answer is to work on your business, bring people in to do other things. But it's such a hard step to take and a hard decision to make to do it. How do you get business owners to overcome that decision and also get them ready? So whether they might not have the cash flow straight away, like, how do you plan to get more cost into the business, I guess is what I'm saying. And then number two, how do you convince them that it's the right thing to do?
Some tough questions. I mean, it's something that we face every single day of everything. And I suppose, I brought on my first employee was Sharon, who is now a business partner of mine, and she was paid substantially more than what I was paying myself as a first employee. And without disclosing, how much we pay each other, but, we pay each other exceptionally well. And ironically, we all pay each other the same amount. We're all paid, including myself. I'm a little bit lucky I get to take dividends too. But from a perception of, I went the complete opposite way. I hired my CEO as my first employee. Now, that took huge sacrifice to me. However, I also know what's coming. And I know, while having a senior person there right at the start can help shape and take a lot of workload off me to be able to focus on growing the business. But that's probably a little bit different. The question that you're really asking from my perspective is, you always have to keep growing your business to afford the growth of the costs that are associated with that. And I'd probably say, if you're trying to grow your business and become what would be the utopia of freedom or flexibility or whatever the magic phrase is at the moment, you inevitably have to grow your business, grow the revenue, and grow the profitability in order to afford those people. So your plan has to be growth if you want to employ those senior people to take that work off you. If your plan isn't growth, you can't really do that. Otherwise, you will just eat into the costs of the business. So one would be, what is your actual plan of the business? And let's just assume it is growth. And we're preparing one of our business owners to spend big on a role. I sort of look at it like this. If a really great person was 150 grand and an average person was 100 grand, right? And they're saying, 150 grand's a lot of money. I would be saying, you're going to have to pay 100 grand anyway, because you need to fill a role. What you're actually talking about is an additional $50,000. So I always talk about the additional amount you're having to pay for a senior person as opposed to a person that you would need to recruit anyway. And then you go, okay, well, is 50 grand worth, me having one day off a week? Is $50,000 worth me pushing all this work down to somebody else? Is 50,000? So you yes, I understand it's $150,000, but you're going to have to recruit someone anyway if you're growing. So it's not really 150, it's an additional $50,000. And when you start to look at it like that, which I believe that's the way that you should be looking at it, you go, well, hang on a minute, it's only $50,000. And I'd love to have a Friday a week, and I'd love to have somebody that could be accountable for these aspects of the business. And I'd love to bring in someone with the skill set of leadership so that they can run the team. So I don't have to run the team. I don't have to do those senior leadership team meetings. I don't have to do those utilization meetings. And then all of a sudden you go, hey, it's 50 grand. I'm going to find that. That's 4 clients. And then off you go.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily 50. I think the way that we trying to convince our really good salespeople to bring support in is, well, it's a 3 to 6 month investment. If you've got the right person, you're going to know it's the right person. So the worst thing is, if you look at 3 months at 50 grand, I don't know what that is, but you might be waxing, 15 grand if you made the wrong decision. If you've made the right decision, you'll quickly get value on that 50 and you won't even think about it. So yeah, I was just interested, how do you convince people to take that step? Because it is difficult, and I understand why it is, and we all do as business owners, but you got to get people to take a leap of faith, really.
You do, but they're business owners for a reason, right? There is some risk profile that sits in them. There's something that's gone, I want to give this a go. And I would say that's right for 99% of the people. So as long as you create a reasonable expectation with them, and you talk logically about, A equals B equals C, they generally kind of understand because they've been there before. I think one of the harder things is when they've tried it 3 or 4 times and they've failed. Recruiting a GM, or recruiting a CEO. We see this all the time, right? And it didn't work. It doesn't work. My business is different. Blah 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 blah. It's like, well, did you set them up for? And you start to unpack how they've recruited a CEO or a GM or even a senior leadership team, and you start unpicking. But you go, well, you kind of just said, hey, you do it. You didn't really set them up for success. You didn't really give them specific direction about how you wanted them doing it. you didn't really support them with a handover process, and all of a sudden, well, yes, you did recruit a CEO, but maybe we can find a way to recruit a CEO and better implement that CEO within your business. So I think that there's lots of different ways you can look at that. And a business owner like I am as well, we're limited to you know, our own bubble of expertise and experience and knowledge. And, that's why I always say support yourself with some great people, whether it be staff, whether it be mentors, whether it be friends. I mean, Jason and I talk a lot about business and, both ways. And that's really important to drive your business forward. You can't, or you can, it's very difficult to do it by yourself. And, it's probably part of the reason why we have such a successful business is we are that sort of link, if you want to talk about, between the advice and the implementation and their skill set and the knowledge and the expertise to help support those businesses on their growth journey.
Yeah. And look, Adam, obviously I know firsthand and in great detail the process, when it comes to your half day unpack and then the meetings you
Yeah.
guys have internally where you
Yeah.
get all the expertise of your team. I look at it and go, business owners, so many businesses fail. So we got that, 4 in every 5 businesses after 3, 4, 5 years, they're gone. They don't make it. So
Mhm.
it'd be the importance of accountability. So, you've structured your business in a certain way that, if somebody wants to work with you, they have to commit to a certain amount of meetings, weekly, fortnightly, monthly. I guess, did you do that in a sense that because you knew that accountability was what was going to set business owners being successful and apart? And then then beyond that, what do you see then as the most common mistakes business owners make?
Accountability is a huge one. And Jace knows firsthand that when we had our first meeting, I said, you have to commit to X. And he was like, "Whoa."
And
um,
I'll jump in like that was confronting. I was notorious for being late to meetings, and this was a maturity thing too, where I copped the big whack up front. Was I said, hey, let's work together. We need help. We're growing, scaling. I think we went from a team of 12 to a team of 28 when Future Advisory started a couple of years ago, kind of like our rebirth, and we grew so fast, and it was fucking chaos. It was carnage, and we
mm,
said, you and I were doing our walks of the tan, we were, in that holding hands, flirting stage, getting to know each other, and then yeah,
so true.
and that first meeting, we said, you smacked, you hit me straight between the eyes and said, if you want to work with me, we'll meet weekly for this many hours, and you have to be there, like. And I looked at my calendar and was like, well, fuck, how can I commit to working on the business this many hours? Like, how can I commit to being at that meeting at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. like every Wednesday? And you said, well, if you don't do it, we can't work together. And it was just so like it was such a lesson in knowing what you stand for and why it's important. And I sat there and went, okay, shit, like, all right, I've got to change my ways. And that change as a business owner to change me to get me to do things, it's obviously been a great journey, but yeah, it's just wanted to cut in and say, that was a big moment for me. And I remember it 3 years ago going like,
Yeah, I mean, I think that accountability stuff, if you're a business that can't carve out a certain amount of hours, not substantial, a week, there's bigger problems, right? And it's not to say that we're not prepared to tackle those bigger problems. It just puts it sort of refocuses or restructures how we're going to approach that person as a client. Again, people are like, oh, we only, we don't know anyone that's, doesn't have a good business that you could support. I mean, we don't actually, the businesses that we generally support are successful businesses that have either grown far too quickly or that they've kind of hit a bit of a ceiling and they can't quite top out. They can't quite get to that next level of growth. So one of the things that we always do with a potential client is say, this is our expectation on you is X, the commitment to the time, and to prioritize that. I mean, it's, we're going back to that sort of prioritize conversation. So one is that accountability is huge. I think also business owners and business leaders struggle with that. They get so busy and they sort of bat off the accountability, knowing that it'll probably get caught somewhere else in the business. That's probably really touching on leadership. The business accountability is, from my perspective anyway, part of leadership. If I say I'm going to be at that meeting at 12 o'clock, I'm at that meeting at 12 o'clock. it sets the tone. It sets the expectation. Hey, Adam's really reliable. You know, my boss Johnny's really reliable. I can get him. I can blah blah blah. So accountability is huge. I think though you've got to. There's metrics around accountability. One is time. One is success. One is delivering. You don't always have to be successful, but you've always got to be delivering, if that kind of makes sense. There's aspects of that, and for me, and Jace knows me pretty well. It's around, I'm very, very rarely late. But not to say that people that are late to meetings are unaccountable, but that's something that I hold myself proud or hold pride around, is that I can be relied upon to be there and to deliver what I need to deliver. And like what you said, we're pretty, from an internal perspective, we're very accountable. But we do it that way because, we're dealing with people's lives and livelihoods. And that is nothing to be sneezed at. And that's why sometimes I have a problem with people just giving advice. I think that can be challenging at times for me when I see that or when I hear that, because there's a real responsibility when you're advising people and their businesses that support their families and support multiple people's families, that you're not doing it from a whimsical kind of, this is what I think should work. You've really got some expertise, track record, and experience to be able to deliver that advice and to be able to help them implement it. So, it is, going through the stages of recruiting at the moment another staff member, which is challenging because we're looking for someone quite specific. It really is curiosity is a big thing that we look for. And the other thing is what do we call it? Sort of this real care factor. You don't really care about it as a business owner. You've got to, care for other businesses like they're yourself. That's an easy value to put up on your wall, and we care for our clients. But to actually enact that through behavior is really complicated to find. People that really care, that really want to help. There's a lot of lip service. You guys would see this all the time. So that type of scenario, but that comes with accountability, and it's sort of molds everything together that we've been talking about.
Yeah, but I guess that's why I opened the conversation with I really like the implementation piece, because you talk about advice. You can go anywhere these days and get information on what you should be doing in your business. But to what we were just talking about, when you get busy, it's the first thing that gets pushed aside because you're busy, or when cash flow is tight, you push that aside because I can't afford it. The thing that everyone needs help with is getting shit done, not what you should be doing. You can easily find out what you should be doing. It's everywhere. It's how do I do it, and making sure that I actually implement it. And that's why I think you guys are unique in what you do. And I know within our own business, we keep each other accountable. And I think we're lucky in that regard that we've got numerous business owners. I actually really enjoy it because I think prior to having partners in the business, I probably wasn't that accountable, or I definitely know I wasn't accountable to anyone else. Now I am accountable, and I can actually see my own performance go up a level because I've got other people that are not judging me, but I've got other people that I need to be accountable to. So I think if you are a 1 or 2 person band and the accountability piece is not there, then it's very hard to get things done, because you always just go back into old ways or go to something that you think's more important, or that's going to bring, $1,000 into the business next week. So I'm going to work on that. So yeah, I really like the implementation and the accountability piece as well. Really resonates.
On that, following on from that, why do you think business owners find it so hard to embrace change? And that's a big question. I'm sure maybe something comes to mind, but because I know personally, again, that being busy, being in the zone, and on from the implementation thing, you said, oh, we need Greg, we need a structure org chart. But instead of then adding it to our homework list, you actually built version 1 of it because you got to know our business, you knew all the moving pieces, you got all the names, and you built it on a Google Doc or Google Slide thing, and then said, Jace, Greg, let's jump in and finish it off. So that working together as a team, you're not just somebody telling us what to do and then a week later, busting our ass if we didn't do it. There's a fair bit of, making it feel like you're in with us. So that change works really well for us. But there's also stuff that, Greg and I probably meant to have done that we've struggled to get through. So on that, to reframe that question again, change. Why do people struggle with it so much?
Probably millions and millions of different reasons. I think, I'm really lucky because I come from an HR background, right? So change management is 101. And, it's my belief that really in order to enact change, you need to be consistent and you need to trust the person who's enacting that change with you. So it's like, we're going to change and we're going to have a management meeting once a week, and then you have it once and then you don't do it. It's like, well, okay, it's probably not going to work. To answer your question, though, why business owners find it hard to change, they don't know any other way. I mean, there's a manufacturing client of ours, and unbelievable, been doing the same thing for 25 years. What, and it's working for him. And I go, okay, but it's working for you, but it's not achieving the goals that you're saying to me that you want to achieve. So we would say, if you want a different outcome, you got to change what you're doing today. And if you don't want a different outcome, then fundamentally you don't have to change. But as a business owner, you always want to see growth and you want to see bits and pieces. What they don't know, or what we feel business owners struggle with, is they don't know what to change. They don't know how to change. And because they don't know those two, they can't put that change together and link that to a different outcome. So what they do is they fall back and they do what they're comfortable with, which is get into the day-to-day. And that's what we see. And it's about, Sharon's a great example, and she won't be mad at me for saying this, is that Sharon is, probably not as outgoing as I am, and probably doesn't enjoy the networking and the relationship driving as much as I do. Mind you, she's very, very good at it. And so whenever there's something, whether it's, go out and network and have a networking meeting, or focus on driving value to the clients and doing the spreadsheets and the this and the that, she will always revert back to the thing she's comfortable with. And much the same as me.
Yeah, I was saying, unless it's at the Bowls and Bubbles party where she's
Correct.
trying to poach all of your clients into her book. I'm still waiting for the call,
Correct.
Sharon. So when you hear this, give me a call. We're ready to jump ship. I've been waiting for the call since last year's Christmas party. So
correct. She does try to do that. So I think it's about consistency, creating that change, and it's about having a trusted partner to drive that change, and that's kind of what we provide. But when you ask me these things, these aren't the silver bullet answers. These are complicated questions that you guys are asking, and they're complicated problems in the small to medium business space, because they're not easy to solve, and it requires multiple things happening at the same time in order to create that change, or create that priority, or create that growth. So it's really a combined approach, doing multiple things at the same time in order to help with that.
Yeah, I'd also then add on to that, the word consistency or consistent hits home hard. I know that, Greg and I probably, through this with you, we set that as a theme for our 23 or 24 financial year, sorry. And we said we want to be consistent. We were coming off a really bad year in 23. We wanted our 2024 year just to be consistent. We didn't need to grow huge numbers. We'd put the foundations and the groundwork in. We just wanted consistent, good efforts from our team and care factor. We had a lot of C's we were throwing around. So, and then after a year of consistency, we had a great 2024, and rolling into 2025, we continued with the same kind of theme, that we just want consistency again. But it wasn't an overnight thing, though. It was a year of building the foundations, making small changes, the little daily 1%ers that we had to do consistently over a long period of time to get some big results. And I think that was the bit that, maybe after 3 months, it might have been easy to quit and say, oh, well, we haven't had any major success. Let's stop doing this. But that part of that whole idea of knowing, it goes back right to what you said at the start. What am I meant to do? What is success? And if you know what success looks like, you've got that kind of goal to work towards. But I'd also go and say it's ongoing work. I mean, it's a work in progress. We want our business to continue to grow and get better all the time. And I don't think, as an entrepreneur or a business owner, I don't think we ever kind of get, maybe unless you're going towards an acquisition or a merger or some kind of ending point.
Mm.
I'm enjoying the journey. It's a journey that I continue to love being on. And yeah, I'm kind of really, really happy with how it's all going.
I think the other thing is though, and I think business owners are pretty hard on themselves. And I know the three of us through our conversations, failing or not getting it right, it's part of the process, right? And you're better off to fail and not get it right than never give it a go. And I mean, it's a very unique thing around business, right? So, that whole concept of I've already hired a CEO, it didn't work out. Okay, well, it didn't work out that time, but maybe we can try it again, and maybe we'll do it a different way, and we mitigate the risk of it failing this time. And I think, and I know Jason and I have spoken about this a lot. I'm super hard on myself. I have super high expectations, but that's just the way I am. And with those high expectations comes failure. Yeah, I don't always hit them, and that really puts me in a tiz. And I think the reality of that is, and Nick, you talked about this, and I know Greg is there for you, is that sort of support. It's okay as long as you've got the direction and you keep doing the activity or the efforts or whatever you call them in order to get there. That's the most important part. Consistently delivering that. Yes, you're going to hit some failures and some speed bumps and some problems along the way, but if you've got the direction and you keep persevering and going towards it, it's going to be very hard to not grow and not get closer to that elusive success that everyone is driving towards.
Elusive success, and I guess it looks different for everyone too. And I guess that's the other thing we need to remember. I'm just thinking there's obviously a lot of good stuff that we're talking about. And this is something that come through from Marty, and as we know, he couldn't be here. I think he's out signing autographs as we speak. But if you look at the different levels in business, and I don't just mean sort of small business to medium size, but someone starting out versus someone who's got some staff versus someone who may be trying to scale. What do you think's some key? What's more important at each stage? So there's all these things you've got to think about as a business owner. Okay, structures. You talked about KPIs for staff. In your case, you went CEO first. I actually love that idea because that means all the stuff that would drag you down is now sorted, and you can purely focus on business growth. So I've never heard that before, and that's actually really intelligent. But if you look at the different sizes of business, because some of our listeners could be 1 or 2 people bands, some could have 10 staff. Is there an order of importance that you would put against these different things that people should be thinking about based on where they're at in business?
Yeah. I think, we'd have to talk pretty generally. I think that when I look at a business, and I've had a couple of businesses in the past, I think it's been more so around you've got to sort of prove something. So you've got to prove the concept, prove the product, prove the system or process or whatever. And I think people think about scaling a little too early. I think there is, and I hate to say this, there's just a grind, right? You just got to get in, you got to prove it, you got to change it, and you've got to, and we always say, get to that $500 million turnover to actually go, okay, we've now got something here, right? That's a grind. There's no getting around that. There's no employing a salesperson or what. You've just got to grind it out and make that happen. That's different for different industries, and that's why we say sort of 500 to $1 million. You've got to create something that says, I've got something, and I can charge for it, and I can do it consistently. I would say, if not, that's like a stage 1, right? Then we go, okay, now that we've got something, what do we do with that? How do we grow that? And generally, there's probably different styles of clients or different ways that you can get opportunities and leads in. There's bringing people into the mix, and dare I say it, management structures into the mix. And then you go, okay, well, we're not just 2 or 3 mates that have created something that we've turned over 400 grand and we've kind of got something here. It's like, okay, well, let's be more specific about what we're doing. What is my role responsible, accountable for, and what is the outcome? And then you start sort of bringing in staff, which is always a hard part. Not a lot of people are great leaders. So you have to understand what leadership is and do it your way, but do it well. You need to support, you need to give clear direction, and you need to make it achievable, right? That's being very basic. And then you start to grow, right? Because you've got your consistency of, lead gen coming in, and you've got your consistency of staff coming in. I mean, I say this, and I don't want to make it sound like business is easy, but from a logical perspective, business is finding somebody to sell to, or whatever it is, or finding a client, having staff members deliver that, and then delivering value to client and profitability to your business. That is such a simplification of such a complicated thing. But when you look at it like that, going through the stages, it becomes a little easier. Create something that people want to buy, grow it, and then fundamentally build it out. And that's kind of, to Jace's point, huge growth, and we call it a tidal wave, right? You've got this sort of tidal wave coming after you, and then it engulfs your business once it catches up. And then you need to restructure it a little bit and go again.
Yeah. I love what you said about clear direction, because I think it's probably been my single biggest learning. I've had a lot. But if I'm talking in recent times, it's giving clear direction, because I guess as a leader, you've hired people for a reason. So more often than not, you've hired the right person or the right people. Mm-hmm. And all these things that you talk about, profitability, delivering a good product or service, being efficient, whatever it is, you've got people in your business that can do those things. So the thing that I've realized is giving that clear direction and saying, you know what, these are our two or three must achieves, whether it's this year or long term or ongoing. The people in your business will just get it done. So, but if you don't give them that clear direction on where you're trying to get to, they can kind of be in no man's land where they think they're doing the right thing, but they're not really sure how that links in with what you want to achieve. And to be transparent, for us, it was, we came up with five metrics that were going to determine whether or not we were successful on a business. Yep. And those metrics were around profitability, growth, customer value, our staff retention, what that looked like from a percentage point of view. And there was one other, but it slipped my mind. I think it was cost to acquire clients. So the minute I got the leadership team across that, every decision they made was linking back to those metrics. Is that going to help my unit and the overall business achieve those metrics? And that's almost been like a game changer for us, because now the leaders know exactly where we're heading, and they make decisions purely in line with those metrics, which then determine whether or not we're successful as a business. And we never used to do that. It was always just about doing more, writing more business, but it's not about that. So, yeah.
100, that's incredible. I think that, that's definitely that is a tough one. I think the other, and I was thinking about this as you were saying that, you employ a really senior person and then you tell them how to do their job. It's like, if you're paying the money to get someone really amazing, you can give them direction about how you want that delivered, but you're paying someone exceptional to do it. Let them do it, right? That's why you pay them, or we see this, and I see this a lot, particularly with CEOs, right? And we go into a business and maybe that there's business owners, the CEO's not doing what I need them to do, and the CEO's, the business owner's not letting me do anything, and you look at that and you go, these people are on, sometimes they're on really big money and sometimes they're on relative money. But, part of that is exactly what you just said, is the clarity. Have you had a conversation and told John exactly what you want them to do? Yeah. Have you? What exactly do you want him to do? Okay, so if I went and asked that to John, would he say exactly that? Oh, no, maybe not. And you go, okay. And then you go, well, how often should you be catching up with John? This person's running your business. Okay, well, we catch up every 6 months. Well, maybe, we need to do it a little bit. And what do you talk about when you catch up? And all of a sudden, you start to unpack, we call that cadence or whatever, all those kind of things that sort of come together. And I'm so glad to hear that you've got, that's an impressive feat to get to, whereas you've got you've clearly defined what business success looks like, and you're able to link each person's role into how they actually can impact that business success. That's hats off. That's a a very forward type of business. And a lot of the stuff that we do is helping business owners get there faster than what they could do it themselves, because we come with a whole set of sort of expertise.
Yeah, and to give you some comfort, we got some external help in that made us aware that that's what we needed to do. So again, it just it goes back to why you're on here and the value that external people can bring into your business.
And on that note, this is where, as a timekeeper, sometimes these conversations keep on going and keep on going, and we could be here for hours if we had that kind of platform. I do want to give this opportunity to say, if you're a business that does want to get there faster, and, we've talked about some pretty epic things, straight off started with change your business, change your life, which is a big kind of a big sentence and a big statement. But, Greg and I are proof in the pudding that we work with you, Adam, and we know what that's like over the journey and the years. If people do want to get in touch with yourself, Adam, or Juno Advisory, what's the best place to find you?
Just on the website. I mean, that's all LinkedIn or however it is. I mean, we're definitely there. The easiest thing is to shoot out, say, hey, I'd love to catch up, have a coffee, have a chat. Understand. I mean, we don't charge for any of that, of course, but we're always happy to have conversations, as the both of you know. Always happy to catch up, maybe a coffee, maybe a beer or wine or something like that. But always happy to catch up, have a chat. And, if we're not right for each other, we'll try to direct you into something that would work for you, because for us, we're here to help businesses, as you two are. So, it doesn't have to be a signed contract for us. It just has to be, give them the advice, help them along their way. If it goes around, comes around, great. If it doesn't, that's also fine for us.
Beautiful, Adam. So if you have enjoyed the show, as always, like, subscribe, review, send it to a friend. We obviously here, as all three of us that are on here right now, love helping business owners and people in general get to a better place in their futures and their lives. So thank you for joining us again. Until next time.
If you change your business, you'll change your life. Game over.
This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The conversations are of a general nature and do not qualify as financial or tax advice. We recommend before you make any financial decisions, you consult a licensed professional. Individuals on the podcast may hold positions in the companies discussed.